There's a lot of supplements out there that claim to do a lot of different things. Some do, some don't, but sometimes you don't know what the hell is in the pill.
People can actually have a genetic deficiency in creatine.
Creatine in our brain is not what it was.
We're told to use melatonin in the evening, low dose, 3 to 5 milligrams.
The supplement side is all dependent on the person. So if that is a deficiency in that person, then that's going to be the best supplement for them, I guess.
Anything less than 5 grams, you're basically paying for price of a Rolls Royce for a Honda Pacific product.
I'm burning 4,000 calories a day easily and already under eating and having a no fat in my diet.
Your body also can't tell time, so deciding to stop eating at 5 p.m. being so popular, and women will get fat if they eat at 7 p.m. Why?
If you guys go hunting and kill all your own food, you're probably fine. You don't need creatine. You probably get plenty. So I'm going to go back to the sucralose thing real quick. I'm going to tell you guys something interesting that I learned not too long ago, because the study just came out. And it was like the nail in the coffin for me on this one. So sucralose, they have found, they did a cancer study, okay? And not that it causes cancer. That's not what they said. But what it does is it blocks the action of arginine. And arginine turns on the T cells that go and attack cancer cells. So they were doing this study on cancer patients and found that those that were consuming sucralose, it actually blocked the action of their immunotherapy. So sucralose was counteracting their cancer treatment. So I was like, okay, I think that's done now. Why are we still giving this to people? So they really are those artificial sweeteners, the pink, yellow, blues. I always tell people, that's another big one. That's right up there with plastic in my world. Like, don't eat that stuff. That's a really good one for your gut for sure. So my next question for the panel is this. What is your favorite supplement to recommend and why?
I think it's pretty simple. It's creatine. It's the most proven. I think it's probably the most obvious, but it's the most proven. That's been around the longest, that does the most. I'm going to look at it from a little bit different perspective. I think when everybody thinks of creatine, they think of muscle size or strength, right? Which is great. That's great. I mean, I think that's the obvious, but I'm looking at it as something that is going to help menopausal women. It's going to help men and women alike as we age to fight against sarcopenia, which is the last thing that you want to have go on. And of course, it does get more difficult to build muscle as we age. And it's one of the aspects that I have so many of the people that I coach and teach on. But women in menopause are going to have several different issues. One is like bone degradation, and it helps with that. It helps with some of the side effects of menopause. It helps men and women alike with mental clarity, thinking clearer. And I think that being that it's tried and true and proven, we know it's safe, we know it's effective. There's a lot of supplements out there that claim to do a lot of different things. And some do, some don't, but sometimes you don't know what the hell is in the pill. Not everything is put through an FDA-regulated facility, and even if it is, it's not necessarily tested. And if it's not, sometimes you could be getting way more something in there. Unfortunately, I've been around it long enough to know, and I've seen it all, that there's a lot of hit and miss. And, excuse me, so creatine, basic ass creatine. I mean, you can say, yes, there you go. I mean, Kris will probably speak on this because he's got a little bit added onto his that's a little bit special that I use myself. But if just general, you don't need all the fancy crap. I mean, all these things that people want to tell you and everything. There might be some argument on HCl. I'm not going to get into it. Regular old basic monohydrate. I mean, Creapure maybe if you want to try to go get the cleanest whatever, but that would be my favorite, hands down. I think probably a lot will be in agreement on that, but that's why I grabbed it from you.
Yeah. I mean, creatine for sure. I mean, it's no big secret, but like a lot of the stuff with the creatine, I will give credit to a lot of my friends and colleagues that do sport nutrition research, and especially individuals from International Society of Sport Nutrition. My good longtime friend, Dr. Scott Forbes, Darren Candow, who've done a lot of creatine research. I mean, really, creatine has probably at this point in time, like well over 2,000 studies on it, both clinical trials, reviews. Like when it first came out, obviously in the early 90s, it was like all about, strength, hypertrophy, like sports performance, explosive power, like, and that still goes on today. But really, like the last 5 to 10 years have been a lot more focused on like the clinical aspect, the immune system marker responses, especially in the brain, because people can actually have a genetic deficiency in creatine, and it's very rare, and of course older adults. And in terms of the traditional loading protocol, like you don't need to do the traditional loading protocol anymore. Some people still think, oh, you need like a glucose transporter like receptor. No, you don't. You just take it with water. It's creatine micronized monohydrate. The other forms of creatine like ethyl esters and stuff, like they're all inferior. Creatine micronized monohydrate is by far the most superior form of creatine. Don't need the loading protocol anymore. You can just start taking it. It's not an anabolic steroid. You don't need to cycle on and off for 6 weeks. In fact, if you look at a lot of sport nutrition research that do like cross-sectional studies and various interventions, like if you're trying to compare like a creatine with like say another supplement, or creatine combined with like a protein supplement, etc., you often have to do like what's called a washout period. So creatine takes about 6 weeks to kind of like completely wash out from the skeletal muscle system. So you can't just introduce your next supplement while you still have creatine in your system. You have to wait. So the creatine studies that you see, they're like maybe 6 weeks, 10 weeks, those took a total of like a year. You have to get the funding anywhere from 6 months to a year. And I can tell you, because I've been involved with sports supplement research projects and training studies, they take several weeks, like from inception to like to idea to approval to an abstract, like to publication. It can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. Okay. So the effects of, 6 weeks creatine supplementation on, athletic performance, et cetera, fill in the blanks, like that probably, like, and I'm just making this timeline up, like January to like May or June. And the study came out like almost, the early the next year. So that's kind of like the timeline of what these studies entail. So yeah, creatine is pretty awesome. Older adults actually need to be taking more. They need to be taking 10 to 20 grams of creatine. And because either if you're creatine deficient, but also like if you're a vegan, which I don't do vegan stuff, but you're automatically going to be lower on creatine, like from the get-go, from a baseline level. So you don't need to do the traditional loading protocol anymore. You can just start taking it. I've done a lot of talks on supplements, and I always talk about creatine from like a sports performance perspective and a clinical marker, point of view. And I've talked about the various studies on this. ISSN have wonderful position statements just on creatine alone, as well as like protein and energy drinks. And the thing like with like pre-workouts, like for example, you will always see creatine, but the creatine gummies, they're garbage. Personally, my professional assessment on them, they're complete garbage, because you have to kindle with other fillers, and guar gums and all the stuff in there. But pre-workouts, obviously, every single pre-workout out there, whether it's a drink or a powder, all have like, there's various ingredients, but they all have the same three. It's going to be caffeine, creatine, or beta-alanine. Okay. Creatine should always have 5 grams in it. Anything less than 5 grams, you're basically paying for the price of a Rolls Royce for a Honda Pacific product. Okay. Beta-alanine is a different story. Now, physiologically, beta-alanine does the exact same thing as creatine monohydrate physiologically, in terms of adding phosphate groups onto the breakdown of ATP, so you can train at higher levels of intensity at a faster rate. But beta-alanine the dosage is overlapped. So creatine is 5, beta-alanine is 4 to 6. You can look that up in ISSN position statements as well. However, pre-workouts almost never, 90% of the time, never have anything over 3 grams. One of the reasons in my professional assessment is that a very low side effect of beta-alanine is paresthesia, which you get like this small tingling of the hands, or the fingers, like the back of the neck. Nobody really knows why it really occurs, but from like a consumer's perspective, and from a company's perspective, if they're getting complaints about people getting tingling, it may affect potential bottom line of the sales. But if they do have beta-alanine in it, 2 to 3 grams, it's not enough. They'll usually have 5 grams. Beta alanine needs to have between 4 or 6 grams. Powders, most powders don't have 4 or 6 grams, and energy drinks don't have 4 or 6 grams. And the other one, of course, is caffeine. And that's a whole different topic about, caffeine, because not like protein, not all caffeine is created equal. Right? I'll stop there because I'm sure we're going to talk about it.
I do like creatine. I do like creatine, but I'm just trying to think of something else that I like. I guess I could do some creatine now for my brain function. So I guess it all depends on the individual and where they are in the world, So for instance, if I think of people in Europe, like in the UK, for instance, they think drinking tea and coffee is hydrating themselves. They don't drink water, and they don't have any electrolytes. So I really like electrolytes, again, dependent on, where they are in the world. So I'm going to give you an example. I was just in Wales now or in the UK about 4 weeks ago, and I met up with my Uncle Nigel. They're all farmers. All my family are farmers, And he'd been going to the doctor earlier this year. He's been several times because he's had no energy. He said, I'd look out, he's got a small holding farm. I'd look outside. I knew I had to go out there, but I've just slept like 8.5 hours and I still don't have the energy and the enthusiasm to go out there and do the work. Doctors didn't know what was wrong with him. Is it all in his head or getting old or whatever? But then my father actually gave him some electrolytes, started drinking the electrolytes, and because they tasted good, it encouraged him to drink more as well. All of a sudden, he's got his energy back. And this tub was like magic. It was absolute magic. And I actually filmed him talking about it to my wife because I thought it's very authentic, So I guess the supplement side is all dependent on the person, So if that is a deficiency in that person, then that's going to be the best supplement for them, I guess. So there isn't like a be-all, one-all, or end-all to any of them.
I really like L-glutamine, not for like the aesthetic athletic purposes, but more for the protective purposes. Taking L-glutamine is really good for your gut lining, kind of helps keep, again, going back to the gut, really good for it. It's not really that advertised for that reason, as opposed to being advertised for, you're not going to be as sore, take this. But I like it more for like the gut protective purposes. And then like a cheating answer is vitamin D. We don't really go outside. People are on their screens a lot. It's actually a hormone. I'm not sure why it's made its way into the supplement world, since it is a hormone that our body produces. It's a byproduct, but those are my two.
Mine is going to be a very, very, very boring supplement. Very boring, very cheap, very inexpensive. No bangs, no whistles. Boring. Melatonin. So 3 to 5 milligrams of low dose melatonin, not some of these 15, 20. That's too much. Boring old melatonin in a soft gel. Do not ever buy it in a tablet. In a soft gel. I use it with my athletes 100% of the time. It doesn't matter if it's a 430-pound Brian Shaw or if it's a 220-pound Saquon Barkley. Every single one, we're told to use melatonin in the evening, low dose, 3 to 5 milligrams. It has a profound impact on insulin sensitivity. It has a profound impact on helping your body mitigate cortisol timing and release. Everybody knows about the sleep part, and that's great. And of course, anytime you sleep better, you're going to have better hormonal responses. And anyhow, because as you sleep is when your body's releasing its growth hormone, releasing its other hormones in order to balance things out through the evening. You set yourself up for success for how you're going to start the next day by taking a very simple low-dose melatonin, 3 to 5 milligrams. I've even had my guys do extensive blood tests because I needed to see, like, there's a couple other things I put with it, but even just with the melatonin, the results were basically the same. They have a profound ability to recover from, so let's say Eddie Hall. I worked with Eddie Hall. So when Eddie did the 1,102-pound deadlift, when you have a situation like that with an athlete, or like when Brian's done his 1,000-pound deadlifts as well, or any of these guys, Tom Stoltman with his 600-pound Atlas stone load, anytime you have these guys that go through a competition where they blow out their central nervous system, because mind you, if you do that activity, your central nervous system is blown out. Every single one of those instances, I had them do that melatonin protocol of mine, And every single one of those individuals was able to recover within 1 or 2 days, whereas before it would be a couple of weeks. But they were back on, everything regulated. People fail to recognize the symptoms of your central nervous system being blown out. People think that while I'm exhausted, my nervous system might be blown out. That they pick up on. It's kind of the opposite. If you truly blow it out, like doing something like that, you're a nervous mess. You are jittery. You are lit up because you're in permanent stuck fight or flight mode. And that low dose melatonin, 3 to 5 milligrams, still would shut it off every single time. And their cortisol levels, when they would get their blood work done, were always drastically down off that stupid, cheap, boring supplement.
So I think one of the things to take away from this is that good old tried and true is probably the way to go when it comes to supplements. I'm going to add a few more things just about creatine, just because I'm a huge believer of it. There is actually a lot of theory, especially in the ISSN. This is where I kind of cut my teeth on a lot of things, that we as a society are highly deficient in creatine. The creatine in our brain is not what it was. And part of that is because of our food supply. So you asked before about, can we get everything we need from food? If you guys go hunting and kill all your own food, you're probably fine. You don't need creatine. You probably get plenty because those are animals that are running around with muscles full of creatine. Our animals are not like that anymore because they're on farms. They're not walking around. They're not running around. And so we're not getting the same amount. So there's a very, very large theory that part of the reason that we're having metabolic brain disease is that we're all creatine deficient. And so that's one of those that I tell everybody to take. I don't care, mom, dad, kids. It's not going to hurt anybody. It never has. They've done long-term studies on it, even in children, and it's never hurt anyone. And so as long as, and the people that say, well, what are the muscle cramps and stuff? Be hydrated, people. It's not a creatine problem. It's a water hydration problem. So don't blame something that it didn't do, because creatine never caused it. It was dehydration that causes that kind of stuff because it pulls those fluids into the muscle. So it's important to kind of look past those weird things that people say and kind of go, wait a second, what was really the problem there? But yeah, I'm a big believer in that. The people's brains are just not, they're getting neglected, and creatine is a big, big part of that. I think more than anything, like, yes, it's good for our muscles. Yay. But taking care of your brain should be the primary reason to take creatine for sure. Mm-hmm. What was your question? I'll talk on the short chain fatty acids. Exogenous ketones, I'm not sold on, so I'm just going to say that right now. Ketones are there for survival reasons. We have them, we produce them so that our brain doesn't die. Like, that's what they're for. Taking them exogenously, I still haven't seen very clear evidence of that. Maybe you guys can, if you've seen anything, but I have never used those. Short chain fatty acids do have a place. Now, I'm going to go back to gut health on this, though. If you have a healthy, functioning gut, you are going to produce short chain fatty acids that go directly to the brain and heal the brain. That's what they do. That is the purpose of short chain fatty acids, is our nervous system. If your gut is functioning right, you are producing those, and you're producing them in adequate amounts. How many people have a functioning gut? 100%? Probably 3% of the population. I would say not very many. So I like using them adjunctly as part of a gut healing protocol so people can kind of feel and teach the gut how to make those again. I don't necessarily do it all the time, but that would be the reason to use them. I don't think they should be a permanent part of someone's nutrition plan, as long as we're working on some gut healing protocols with that.
Yeah, I'll do. I haven't done ketones for a while. I'm not really into like the ketone aids or ketone IQs. I do like BHB salts because sometimes, dependent on the type of training that I'm doing, let's say if I'm doing a lot of endurance training, then I like to double up on my fuel sources. So I know I'm getting ATP from the BHB. I'm going to get ATP from creatine, or, even if I'm having, like, a lot of people will take like BHBs or ketones without carbohydrates. I do them with carbohydrates. I personally feel that you're getting a double fuel source utilizing both. So I feel that my ATP production is enhanced if I'm doing BHB and I'm doing, the regular carbohydrates with creatine. I think it works well. It does for me anyway. But like I said, I'm not into like the other type of ketones that you get out there, like you do in your ketone IQs and your ketone aids. I prefer the pure BHB salts.
The food guide pyramid is off the table. What is the worst piece of nutrition advice that you have ever seen or heard? Go crazy.
It's very, very easy for me because it's been something personal and something I've seen with everybody, and that is the low-fat diet, which I would argue is one of the worst creations I've ever seen in the dietary world, if not the worst. I mean, the food guide pyramid's pretty fucked, but the low-fat diet in itself, I fell victim to this for, I don't know, my whole life. It's called lipophobia, fear of fats. And Lacy talked with me this in detail. I've talked about it on several shows I've done. I've gone on podcasts to talk about it, to try to talk to people to explain them just how bad this was. And even being a nutritionist for so long and knowing and teaching clients, it's still embedded in your head, and you have this fear, and you correlate the word fat with being fat, and it couldn't be more inaccurate and more wrong. And the body really thrives and needs fats, and they've been demonized. They've been put into a light of putting people into darkness by not, having them and understanding the need and necessity for them in your overall health. And once I made that change, and you're talking to somebody that overtrains, admittedly, but I'm burning 4,000 calories a day easily, and already under eating and having a no fat in my diet, just destroying me. Probably a contributor to why I've had heart issues, a contributor to why I've had trouble staying focused longer than 30 minutes, probably why I'm irritable, probably by every bad quality I've ever had could probably be attributed to that. And so once I made these changes, once I started to understand everything that I was teaching, I needed to start doing my own and getting past my own mental block and putting that into play. I mean, my whole world's opened up. Everything has changed for me. I'm a lot kinder, I'm a lot nicer, but I'm a lot more focused, and I'm able to absorb. I kept asking myself, why are you not able to sit and listen longer and absorb information when you used to do so well? And it was because of this. And over time, it will degrade because your body requires it in so many different ways. And that brings on another topic of understanding cholesterol, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole that I would talk forever on, and I don't want to be that guy today. But that, to me, that whole thing that started, was it late 80s, early 90s, and just got thrown down our throats. And I've talked to some of the biggest experts all over the world about this, and skewing studies to make it look a certain way for whatever purpose. And you could get into, that's a whole nother hole, but it's gotten pushed down our throats, and we've been made to believe something completely and utterly inaccurate. And I can prove it through so many different ways, blood panels, experiences, things I've done with so many people that will try to tell you all of these fats are so bad, they're going to ruin your cholesterol, ruin your heart. All of my markers have improved so drastically, performance, everything. And it's something that I've known the whole time, but I like to, when I teach, tell people mistakes I've made so that I can then teach them how to fix them, and then things that I've seen other people make. But it's good to come up and discuss all of these parts and components that are missing. But I swear to you, I promise you, that there are so many important aspects of implementing fats into your diet, and it's something that you never, ever, ever want to shortchange or let deplete, because it will come at a cost.
I would say two things. The phrase of eat less and move more, which I understand the intention behind that. And most of that and please correct me if I'm wrong, most of that phrase comes from like medical professionals who have less than 3 weeks of actual nutrition experience and or knowledge in the medical system. So that phrase, I think, has become as being a very large disservice. The other one, which ranks higher than that, is this illusion and this fake story of carbohydrates and sugars cause obesity. That has been one of the worst things that people like. The whole mentality behind it is an illusion. Like, if carbohydrates or sugar cause obesity, we would all be obese. Okay, obesity is very multifactorial. It is partly genetic, it's environmental, it's psychological, it's mental, it's physiological, it's nutritional, it's how you respond, to food. I would argue that probably of those factors, and there's more, I would say that the genetic and environmental aspects are the greatest contributors, to obesity. But if you also look in terms of families, like you have one obese parent, you're 50 to 60% in chances of your kid being, obese right out of the gate. If you have two parents that are very overweight and obese, now it's like, 80, 90% plus. So environment alone, if you had the genetic environment, I would say environment alone is a higher risk factor for somebody being, because I'm genetically like bigger, like my dad, his brothers, like we're all just genetically bigger. And so I've had to fight my whole life. Like I was really chubby when I was a kid. We ate a lot of junk food, and but we were really active, right? I mean, I'm a multi-sport athlete. I competed in strongman, so I really didn't understand how the nutrition side works until I was almost like kind of way past, my PhD, when I actually started teaching it, and getting more involved with it. So I would say just eat less and move more. It's like, okay, but what does that really mean? Like, how much less do I have to eat? Like there's a whole, we've been sitting here for 2 hours talking about this. I would say that, and then the carbohydrates and sugars alone are the reason like why everyone's obese, which is a complete horseshit. Are they small contributors? Yes, but they're not like the key underlying reasons of why people are obese, even though obesity is a very multifactorial process.
Yeah, the one that I think is a huge misconception is that all macros are created equal. So, I'd see people have all this deli meat and I'm having my protein, and not really understanding the form of that protein or how it is being digested or how it's having an effect on your gut microbiome. They're all very, very different. Talking about carbohydrates before, the way that someone is going to process rice could be very different to how they're going to process like bleached flour, for instance. It's been stripped of all its fiber that is actually providing good bacteria to your gut. So I'd say that's the biggest thing. Even though we consider a lot of these macronutrients healthy, a lot of them aren't, because a lot of them are stripped of their essential aspects that is contributing to your gut microbiome or your health. So, and of course, we could talk about the insulin spikes that are associated with some of those. So I'd say that's it for me.
Placing a priority on counting calories, it's not my thing. Body can't do math. I guarantee you, if you give your cells a math test, they will all fail. So that's my biggie. Focus on your macros. Do not spend time wasting on obtaining your 2,800 calories a day or 2,650 calories a day. Irrelevant. Put your priority on your macros, your meal prep, getting the right supplements that you need to supplement your diet if that's necessary to your lifestyle. But definitely stop wasting time counting calories.
Kind of got a short and sweet one too. Your body also can't tell time. So deciding to stop eating at 5 p.m., being so popular, and women will get fat if they eat at 7 p.m. Why? That's my biggest thing that I like, even with private people that I work with outside of the hospital, things like that. So many women that I work with are like, but I go to bed at 9. I'm going to eat dinner at 7. Yes. And you will be okay.
And watch our channel for more interesting information like this. But if you do want a more breakdown of real science versus media fear-mongering, subscribe, drop me a like, and share this with someone. And check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and now on Spotify. You can listen to content like this.